हर प्राणी में साई, हर प्राणी में बाबा, सब प्रेम करो, सब प्रेम करो, मेरा साई प्रसन्न होगा, मेरा साई प्रसन्न होगा, मेरा साई प्रसन्न होगा। दिन दुखियों से प्रेम करो, मेरा साई प्रसन्न होगा, दिन दुखियों से प्रेम करो, मेरा साई प्रसन्न होगा। साई मेरा मैं तेरा, ये प्रेम की बहती धारा, साई मेरा मैं तेरा, ये प्रेम की बहती धारा, ये प्रेम की बहती धारा, ये प्रेम की बहती धारा, मेरा साई प्रसन्न होगा, मेरा साई प्रसन्न होगा।
My most loving and humble salutations at the divine lotus feet of our beloved Swami. Respected elders, brothers and sisters, young adults and children, my loving Jai Sai Ram to you all. It is my great pleasure to welcome you and your family to our first online Laksharchan. Congratulate yourself on having decided to just join such a blessed and sacred event. Also remember, the Swami has said to evoke the divine within you. There is no better method than the Lord's name, Namasmara. Each year, the 24th of April is the day when Satya Sai Baba transcended from this transient world into our heart. It is on this day in 2011 the Swami left his physical body, but he continues to live in the hearts of people who hold him dear. The day also has been observed as a World Human Values Day. This anniversary has termed a Satya Sai Aradhana Mahotsavam. Mahotsavam, which translate into great festival. What is one expected to do on such a day, and how should we celebrate it? Satya Sai followers all over the world observe this day by remembering him and practicing the teachings of love and selfless service to the community. Beloved Swami has reassured us that for the people of this Kali Yuga, the simple remedy prescribed is just Namasmara. The constant awareness of the name of God is the highest sadhana to achieve our ultimate goal of our life. Laksharchana is a unique and very powerful sadhana. It is performed by chanting his mantra 101,000 times, 1 lakh. One must participate to experience the divine vibrations throughout the chanting till the end. Many devotees have reported after this sadhana their problems were solved. One of the speakers said, Swami should not be seen, he should be experienced. My daughter and I were in Sai Hall on 24th April 2011 when Professor Anil Kumar announced the news. We were so devastated, but I remember all the assurances of Swami. I'm always with you, above you, around you, below you, and most of all, within you. You may leave me, but I will never leave you till I deliver you to your destination, which is yourself. I felt better. My heart welled in gratitude and love for him. I felt blessed that Swami has given me the chance of knowing him and recognizing his divinity. Really, aren't we blessed to know that Swami is in our heart? This is one aspect where I feel that ignorance is definitely not a bliss. In this time of uncertainty and fear throughout the world, it is spiritually uplifting for all of us to think of God more and more. Devotees have been recently playing around the world, giving us strength. The love and grace of Sai is our strength and courage today and forever. The divine energy and love experienced during these prayers will always sustain us. This will help us focus on our individual sadhana and service to the world and embrace Bhagavan even more in our lives. He has promised us, why fear when I'm here? Those powerful words will help us to live a peaceful, balanced, and spiritual life devoid of fear and anxiety. Our faith and our prayers will help all mankind. It will make us ready to love all and serve all. Before I finish, I would like to recite a beautiful prayer which Swami has given it to us. O Lord, take my love and let it flow in fullness of devotion to Thee. O Lord, take my hands, let them work continuously for Thee. O Lord, take my soul, let it be merged in one with Thee. O Lord, take my mind and thoughts, let them be in tune with Thee. O Lord, take my everything, let me be an instrument to work. I would like to say my heartful thanks to you all for joining our online Laksharchana, our way to serve the divine, our Lord Sai within you. Jai Sai Ram. Now it is my great pleasure to welcome our National President, Brother Ketan Gokhani, to share his thoughts on this occasion. Brother Ketan.
I offer my humble pranams at the lotus feet of our beloved Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba, respected elders, Brothers and sisters and young children, Jai Sai Ram to you all. I'd like to warmly welcome you to today's Laksharchan, marking Swami's Aradhana Day, as we commemorate Swami's Mahasamadhi Day. Although Bhagwan left his physical form on the 24th of April 2011, he has always reassured us that he is with us as our eternal companion. In these times of great uncertainty and fear due to the pandemic of COVID-19, Satya Sai devotees everywhere are finding comfort and courage in the immortal teachings of our dear Lord Sai, as he has always told us, why fear when I am here? Now, more important than ever, we should pray to Bhagwan for the welfare of the world. All over the world this weekend, devotees will be doing similar online programs of Aradhana Mahotsavam, taking the opportunity to pray together, perhaps not physically, but at the same time with the same focus. Now, before we start the Laksharchan, let's listen to some divine words of our dear Lord Sai on why it is important to chant the name of the Lord. Jai Sai Ram to you all.
అన్నింటికి నీ నామస్మరణే ప్రధానము.
For everything, Lord's name is
ఈ
important.
నామచింతన లేక ఇంకే విధమైనటువంటి దీంతో కూడాను మన జీవితం అనే నామను దాటడానికి వీలు కాదు.
Without chanting Lord's name, it's not possible to cross this life.
ఈ నామమే మన జీవితానికి ఒక పెద్ద నావ.
This Lord's name is the very
ఈ
boat.
నావను ఎంతకాలమైనా సముద్రంలో పెట్టుకొని ప్రయాణం చేయవచ్చు.
You can travel for any length of time in this boat.
నావ కింద ఎంత జలమైనా ఉండవచ్చును.
There will be a lot of water.
కానీ నావ లోపల జలము చేర్చితివా ప్రమాదం అవుతుంది.
But the moment water enters into the boat, it will be dangerous.
జలము నావలో ఉండనప్పటికీ పర్వాలేదు.
Doesn't
అనగా
matter.
ప్రమాదం అవుతుంది.
But if the boat is on the water, it is safe. But when the water
ఇలాంటి
gets in, it's dangerous.
ప్రాకృతమైనటువంటి భావములు జీవితం అనేటువంటి దీంట్లో మనం ప్రవేశించుకున్నప్పటికీ నామం అనేటువంటి చింతన చేసినప్పుడు నిశ్శబ్దంగా, నిర్మలంగా, నిస్వార్థంగా నామచింతన చేయాలి.
As we repeat Lord's name, we should repeat it, chant it selflessly, with a pure heart.
ఆడంబరంగా కానీ,
Not with pomp
లేక అహంకారంగా కానీ
or ego.
నామను ఉచ్చరించకూడదు.
You should never be egoistic, full of pride as you repeat God's name.
ఈ నవవిధ మార్గము లోపల ఏ మార్గమునైనా నీవు అనుసరించమని చెప్పారు.
You may follow any path, any one of the paths.
ఎట్ట మనం అనుభవించాలి?
Where?
ప్రశాంతమైనటువంటి భావంతో, నిర్మలమైనటువంటి హృదయంతో, నిస్వార్థమైనటువంటి చిత్తముతో శ్రవణం,
With all the purity, in all peace, you should chant God's name.
కీర్తనం,
Listening, the singing,
విష్ణు స్మరణం,
chanting,
పాదసేవనం,
service,
వందనం,
salutation,
అర్చనం,
worship,
స్నేహం,
friendship,
ఆత్మనివేదనం.
surrender.
ఇవి పవిత్రమైన భావంతో మనం చేయాలి.
You should do with all sacred feeling.
స్మరిస్తున్నామో ఆ నామరూపమే మన హృదయంలో చిత్రించుకోవాలి.
You should picturize the form
అది
as you repeat the
నిజమైన
name.
నామస్మరణ.
That is true chanting.
ఈ కలియుగం నందు అదే మనకు ప్రధానమైనటువంటి ప్రాణము.
In this age of Kali, that is the very
కృతయుగ
life.
ధ్యానము, కృతయుగ ధ్యానము,
In the Kruta age meditation,
త్రేతాయుగ యజ్ఞము,
in Treta Yajna,
ద్వాపరయుగం అర్చనము,
in Dwapara worship,
కలియుగం నామస్మరణ.
in Kali age
హరే
chanting Lord's
నామ
name.
హరే నామ హరే నామ ఇవ కేవలం కలౌ నాస్త్యేవ 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 గతిరన్యత. ఈ కలియుగంలో నామస్మరణకు మించినటువంటిది సులభమైన మార్గం మరొకటి లేదు.
There is no other easier path in this age of Kali other than Lord's name.
ప్రయాణం చేస్తూ మనసులో నీవు నామస్మరణ చేసుకోవచ్చు.
You can repeat God's name as you
నిద్ర
travel.
వచ్చేంత వరకు నామస్మరణ చేసుకోవచ్చును.
You can repeat
ఏ
God's
పనులు
name till the end.
చేస్తున్నప్పటికీ నామస్మరణ చేయవచ్చు.
Any work you may do.
కనుకుని అట్టి పవిత్రమైనటువంటి సులభమైన మార్గం ఈ కలిలో ఏర్పడింది.
Such a easy sacred path is present now.
కలియుగం చాలా సులభమైనటువంటిది తరించడానికి.
This is very easy path in this age of Kali.
Jai Sai Ram to all of you. My humble salutations at the lotus feet of our beloved Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba, who is most merciful, most compassionate, and most graceful. Swami, I offer my loving salutations to you and pray to you for you to conduct Laksharchan through this dasa. I'd also like to offer my pranams to Dr. Gadia and to Vargama Kaka, whom Swami had chosen as instruments for this divine task. First, Dr. Gadia had started this with Swami's permission and blessings, and then this was passed on to Vargama Kaka, who asked Swami that doctor is merged at your lotus feet now. Who will do this? And Swami said, "You will do it." And Swami very divinely say that I will conduct it through you. You just sit there and I'll do the rest. And this sadhana carried on. And I can't help but thinking the days when Vargama Kaka used to bless me so much and say that Vikra Tarya sadhana karavani છે એટલીસ્ટ East Midlands માં તો જેટલું બને એટલું તું કરાવજે કોઈ દિવસ ના નહીં પાડતો. He used to say, please make sure that you do this, carry on. I want you to carry this on. And I said, Kaka, I give you my word that I will carry this sadhana on, and Swami will do this through me. So I offer my pranams to them. So I would like to welcome all of you to this Laksharchan, and I would love to welcome our beloved Bhagwan, who is seated in our altar at the moment, no doubt, but he is seated in the hearts of his devotees. And he always used to say that Prashanti Nilayam is not my home. My home is the heart of my devotees. So that Swami that is seated in all your hearts, I offer my salutations to all of you as well. First of all, let us know there are many people who might be new to this sadhana. So let us know what is Laksharchan. So first of all, I would say that the word Laksharchan, it is some people mispronounce it. They say Lakshacharan. It is not Lakshacharan. It is Laksharchan, which is made up of two words, Laksh and Archan. Laksh means 100,000 and Archan means when you perform Archana, which is one of the 9 forms of devotion, one form of the Navda Bhakti that Bhagwan has given us. So Archana means when you're offering something to Bhagwan. And as most of you know, that in Laksharchan we offer uncooked rice grains mixed with saffron. Sometimes people would like to do that. Otherwise, just uncooked rice grains at Swami's lotus feet. Some people might think, why does he need rice grains? People also ask, why do we need to offer prashadam to Bhagwan? Vedas say that Bhagwan does not eat. But that is talking about the Niranjan, Nirgun form of Bhagwan. But when Bhagwan takes a form as a Sakar, as Rama or Krishna, or Buddha or Mahavir or Jesus, or as Bhagwan Shri Satya Sai Baba, he does partake food that is offered by devotees. In Krishna Avatar, Bhagwan accepted Vidurji's the spinach that his wife offered. In Rama Avatar, Bhagwan accepted the fruit that Shabri lovingly offered. So these rice grains will be prashadam for us when it will be blessed by Bhagwan's touch of his lotus feet. So that is the meaning of Laksharchan. Why do we do Laksharchan? As I said, it is a form of archan. It is one of the 9 forms of devotion, and it is one thing which is actually a kinesthetic activity compared to meditation. Some people would like to meditate, some people would like to sing bhajans, some people would just like to hear bhajans, some people would like to perform a kinesthetic activity. So Archana is one of the things. And if we do Archana, that is one thing we can offer to Bhagwan and then take it as prashadam. This rice that we are going to offer afterwards can be partaken as prashadam, and many ailments, many illnesses have been cured since Dr. Gadia's time by eating this prashadam. And it is always advisable to give this rice to other people, especially to patients who are not well. So that is why we do our Laksharchan. Now the mantra that we use. The mantra we use was given to Dr. Gadia by Bhagwan himself, and the mantra was Om Shri Satya Sai Krishnaya Nama. I always say that you try to say Krishna, because Swami also, when he was explaining the meaning of Krishna, he used to say Krishyate iti Krishna, which means the person who always attracted other people, that was Krishna. So it should be Krishna, and it is written like that if you write it in Sanskrit. So the meaning of this Omkar, we all know the meaning of Omkar, and the Rig Veda says that Bhagwan resided in the form of Omkar even when the 14 universes were not created, even when Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva were not there. Bhagwan resided in the form of sound energy, in the form of Omkar. And that is why when we perform Paduka Puja, most of you will know, you always ask to bring a bell and worship it, because a bell represents sound and sound represents divine energy. When we begin our Laksharchan, we'll also chant 3 ohms. And Swami used to say, when you chant 3 ohms, that is my phone number. He had told a devotee that my phone number is 3 ohms. When you chant 3 ohms, I always install myself there and listen to what you have to say, whether it is bhajans or whether it is some sort of puja or whether it is even a meeting, it doesn't matter. So that is Om, and then Shri. Shri is another word for Lakshmi. So in this mantra, when we say chant the mantra, we are offering our salutations to the divine energy of Mother Lakshmi. And then Satya Sai, we all know that he is the embodiment of truth and divine mother and father. Satya Sai Baba means divine mother and father. And he is our divine mother and father. And he's our best friend. Tvameva mata cha pita tvameva bandhuscha sakha tvameva. So he's our divine mother. So we are chanting his divine name. And then Krishna. Because Krishna was considered to be a Purna avatar, with all the 16 attributes, 16, it says kalas, sola kala sampurna. He was the Purna avatar with all the attributes of the divine. So we are offering our salutations to Lord Krishna. And then we say Namaha, which means I offer my salutations. It is very, very important in devotion to offer our celebration, our salutations to elders, to our parents as well, and to God. This is very important to get blessings. In the Mahabharata, before the battle started, Arjuna shot an arrow, which landed near Lord Bhishma's chariot, and he blessed him that may you be victorious. And Duryodhana was standing there and said, "You are in my army, and yet you are blessing the Pandavas. Why are you doing that? You are blessing them to be victorious, although you're fighting on my side." And Bhishma said, "Because he is bowing down to me, that is why I gave him this blessing. My child, if you bowed down at my feet, I would have given you this blessing as well. But you have got so much arrogance and ego that you would not bow down, and hence you didn't get this blessing from me." So whoever bows down will always receive blessings. So we say Namaha. So Om Shri Satya Sai Krishnaya Nama is the meaning of this mantra. Now, how to do the Laksharchan? You all have been advised to take a little plate and place Swami's picture and some vibhuti and some rice. And as we chant the mantra, Om Shri Satya Sai Krishnaya Nama, everybody has to chant every mantra because it is counted towards the Laksharchan. And when you say Namaha, you offer it as Swami's photo. Okay. Now I say Swami's photo, but I do not like to say that. It is Swami himself. Swami used to say that my photos are not photos; they are me myself. Okay. And in Shirdi Baba's time, there was one devotee who came to Dwarka Mai one day, and as soon as he entered, Bhagwan told his devotees that I've known him for the past 20 years. And then the devotee said, "Hey, but he's come for the first time, Baba. How do you know?" And Baba said that he saw my picture in his friend's house one day, and first time he asked him, "Who is this person?" And his friend said, "This is my guru, and he's the avatar of Dattatreya. He's Shedi Sai Baba." Since then, I know him. So let's not consider a photo as a photo. And Tulsidas ji very lovingly said in the Ramcharitmanas, "Jaki rahi bhavna jaisi, Prabhu Murati dekhi tin taisi." That it is up to us and our inner feelings how we see it. Is if you think it's a photo, you'll get a reply from a photo. If you think it's a statue, you'll get a reply from a statue. If you think this is my beloved Bhagwan himself, then you will get blessings and reply from Bhagwan himself. So let us, it doesn't need to be a photo of Baba. It could be a photo of any form of God, or your Kul Devta or your Kul Devi, not a problem. And you have to offer the rice like this, I would say. Don't offer it like that. Even when we are offering ahuti in a yajna, we should obviously offer it like that, as if you're feeding a little child. So you can touch it to the rice to your heart, and then offer it from your heart. And whilst doing this, we need to remember that Bhagavan has said in the Vedas, Kali Yuga, in the Vedas he said, Harir Namam, Harir Namam, Harir Nameva Kevalam, Kalau Nasteva, 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 Yatiranyatha. 3 times Bhagavan has said that in Kali Yuga, apart from the Lord's name, there is no other solution, no other solution, no other solution. 3 times. And in the Ramcharitmanas also, Tulsidas ji has written, Kali Yuga keval naam adhara, jaan lehu jo jananihara. So from all this we get it that Harinam Smaran, how important it is for the solution of all our problems. At the moment, we face a big problem of COVID-19, and this Laksharchan, I'd like to dedicate it Bhagwan's lotus feet to pray for all those people who have passed away from this disease, for Bhagwan to give courage and strength to their families, and for Bhagwan to save the world from this disease. So we should pray this for Vishwa Shanti, and that is Bhagwan's mission on earth, Samasta Loka Sukhino Bhavantu. Now, whilst we are doing this Laksharchan and chanting the mantra, I want everybody to have this feeling of having unshakable faith at the lotus feet of the Lord. I love this pad, or this last bhajan that Surdas ji wrote before taking samadhi, Bharoso Dradhe in Charana Nikero, which literally means have unshakable faith at the lotus feet of the Lord. And then one of the lines in that is, Sadhan aur nahi akal inme jaso hot nivero bharoso dradhe in Charana Nikero. That again, there is no solution for the problems of humanity in Kali Yuga apart from one, which is having unshakable faith at the lotus feet of the Lord. That is what we will have in our hearts. We'll have Bhagwan's form in front of us, and we will offer our archana. So the itinerary, I'll tell you how this will happen. We will first have a Ganesh bhajan, after which I will instruct what to do the next. And then I will do 2 maras, and we will have a gap in between. We'll have a bhajan, and then I will relate whatever Swami inspires me to relate, and then we'll have 4 maras, do the same thing, have a bhajan and some experiences. Then we'll do 2 more maras, we'll make it 6, and then 8. And after that bhajan, after 8 maras, I will let everybody know what to do for the last mara. So at the moment, we will go towards Lord Ganesha first, and we will remember him with all our hearts. Jai Sai Ram. ओम सर्वज्ञ सर्वदेवता स्वरूप अवतारा, सत्य धर्म शांति प्रेम स्वरूप अवतारा, सत्यम शिवम सुंदरम स्वरूप अवतारा, अनंत अनुपम ब्रह्म स्वरूप अवतारा। ओम भगवान श्री शिरडी साईनाथाय नमः। ओम भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबाय नमः। ओम भगवान श्री प्रेम साईनाथाय नमः। ओम श्री सत्य साई कृष्णाय 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 नमः। Om Shri Satya Sai Krishnaya Namah. 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 Om Shri Sati 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 Sai Krishnaya Namah. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Jai Sai Ram. Um, Thank you, Bhagwan. With your mercy, grace, and compassion, we have completed two maras of this Laksharchan. Um, Yesterday night, a very, I would say, a very great miracle happened with me, and I'd like to share it with all of you. I actually have the compendium of Bhagwan's teachings and what he has said about different topics in various places like Sanatan Sarthi and even Satyasai Speaks and different other books. And just as the Hukamnama is given in Amritsar in Golden Temple, where what they do every day, they open the Guru Granth Sahib Ji, and whatever the page comes upon, they take it as their message for the day from the Guru. So I just thought that let Swami, I pray to you to give me the message what you want to say to everybody tomorrow. So I'm going to open any random page and see what you are saying, Swami. And I prayed and I opened up a page, and the first paragraph, this was the miracle that I think Swami did, and it said it was a message from Sanatan Sarthi of March 1994 on page 69. And please listen to the message. Purity, patience, and perseverance. If you follow these three tenets, you will never be afflicted by any disease. This is what Swami said. At the moment, everybody is thinking about this COVID 19 disease, and everybody is thinking, what should we do? How will we be cured? But I think Swami is emphasizing on prevention, and he's saying that if there is purity, patience, and perseverance, then surely you will not be afflicted by any disease. Now, what does he mean by this? I tried to think about it, and the thoughts that Bhagavan gave me were, I think we have purity in our thought, word, and deed. And Swami always used to say that at the moment we see so much stuff on news, and we see on WhatsApp and Facebook and Instagram and so many other social media and people. Even if you do call somebody, um, we all talk about this disease, this COVID-19, and the more we see, the more it saddens our heart. Every time in the news, it is declared how many people are dying and what is happening, and it saddens our heart. And instead of all of this, we need to actually focus and channelize our energies at Swami's lotus feet and just doing our daily karma as we should do. Like I'm a teacher and I have to mark work from home, I have to set work, I have to call my students and follow them up. That is my duty. So that is what I do. And it's not that some people say, well, you need to be updated. But yes, updating does not mean that we should focus all our energies all the time in the day on this disease. So we need to have to purify our thoughts, our words, and our deeds, and they need to match as well. Our thought, word, and deed should always match, Swami says. Then comes patience. At the moment, we even see news around the world. People are losing their patience. They want to come out of their house and say, "Oh, I'm tired of sitting at home. This is boring. I'm just going to go out. Nothing's going to happen to me." And people think like that, and they're not being patient. Whilst all the governments are trying to do their best to find a solution to this problem, and our government has clearly said that we need to stay home, we need to protect our NHS, and we need to save lives thus. And so we should have this patience. Patience was also taught lovingly from our first avatar, Shedi Baba. He used to teach Shraddha and Saburi, which means have faith and have patience. He could have said so many other things as well, but in that avatar, Bhagwan focused on faith and patience. So we need to have this faith as we are having today whilst conducting Laksharchan. And we should be patient. We should stay home, not come out unless it is absolutely necessary. And we need to thus be good citizens of this country. And Swami always used to say, always follow the rule of the land. So that is why we need to stay home. Then comes perseverance. And I think we need to persevere in our prayers. We need to carry on praying, and we should not stop praying for world peace, for our loved ones, for everybody. Samasta loka sukhino bhavantu, Swami says. Swami always says, love all and serve all. He didn't specify any particular person or any particular being. He always said, love all, serve all. And at the moment, whilst doing this Laksharchan, we are praying for the whole world and for people who are suffering from this disease. May they become well soon. Again, people who have left us and passed away, may they attain Bhagwan's lotus feet. May their families find strength and courage. And may Swami bless the whole world. Having said this, we will start our third and fourth mala, and we will chant the mantra. So I'll chant Omkar once, and then we'll carry on. And same as before, we carry on offering the rice grains, and after the third and fourth mala, we will have a bhajan. Jai Sai Ram. Om Shri Sati Sai Krishnaya Namam. 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 Om Shri Sati Sai Krishnaya Namah. 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 Om Shri Satya 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 Sai Krishnaya Namah. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sairam. We have now completed our third and fourth mala of our mantra. Um, Today is a very auspicious day, not only because we are all gathering together virtually and conducting Laksharchan, but actually today is a very holy and a divine day because today is Parshuram Jayanti. We all know that Bhagwan Vishnu, according to the Sanatan Dharma, he has taken 24 avatars, starting from him incarnating as a fish to a boar, to a turtle, and to Narsimha when he saved Prahlad. We all know the story. And then Parshuram. Parshuram was born to Rishi Jamadagni and Devi Renuka. He was a great sage, Rishi Jamadagni. And there was the Kshatriya king known as Sahasrarjun, who was very cruel, and he was burning all the, he was setting fire to all the hermitages of all the rishis and all the saints and sages, and he was killing all the saints and sages because he wanted to rule over the whole world. And that is why Bhagwan has always promised, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutthamanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chadushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. And to protect dharma and to protect devotion of his devotees and to protect Mother Earth, Bhagwan took avatar as Parshuram, and he had his Parshu, which was given to him by his Guru, which was Lord Shiva himself. And with that, he killed all the cruel Kshatriyas and saved Mother Earth. So Bhagwan has carried on taking avatar, and as he has promised in Kali Yuga, when we need him the most, which is the worst of the ages, he's incarnated as Satya Sai, who is right now with us. Whilst we offer these akshat, these rice grains at his lotus feet. So remembering him who has always protected his devotees, let us carry on with our fifth and sixth malas. So we will chant one Om together, and then we will all chant the mantra again. Jai Sai Ram. Om Shri Satya Sai Krishnaya Namah. 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 Om Shri Sati 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 Sai Krishnaya Namah. Jai Sai Ram. Thank you, Bhagwan, for allowing us to complete um, our six maras. Um, and we are offering this Laksharchan at your lotus feet because we love you so much. We say always that we love our Bhagwan so much, but sometimes I think we forget that Bhagwan's love for us is like 1,000 mothers. And that is why he used to say that you need not ask for anything. I know what to give you, when to give you. Um, and Bhagwan loves his devotees. Legend has it that once sage Narada visited Lord Vishnu, and Lord Vishnu said, I've got a question for you. And he asked him who was the greatest, what is the greatest thing ever on earth. And Narada thought a lot and said, Swami, Dharti, the land is the greatest, I think. It gives us food. And Lord Vishnu said, but Dharti is only 30%, 70% is water. So what is greater? And Narada said, okay, it seems like without water we can't live. So water is great. And then the Lord said, not yet. And it is said that to save the devatas, one time there was a sage known as there was a sage Agatsya who drank the ocean in one go. So who is more greater? And they said, oh yes, then the sage is more greater. And Bhagwan then said, when he died, he became a star in our galaxy. So what is greater? Then Narada said, the galaxy is massive, very, very vast. So the galaxy is greater. And then Bhagwan carried on that when I took the Vaman avatar, when I incarnated as a dwarf, with one footstep, I covered the 14 worlds and the galaxy. So what is greater? And Narada thought, Swami, your lotus feet, there is nothing greater than that. And then Bhagwan said, if my feet is that, 1 foot is that great. Imagine my whole form. Sahasra Sirisha Purusha, as it is said in the Purusha Suktam. And then Narada said, yes, Bhagwan, there is nothing greater than you. You're right. And then Lord Vishnu said, yes, but there is still something left. If I am so great, then what about the devotee who has kept me in his small heart? I'm imprisoned in his heart because of his devotion. So how great is my devotee? And that is when Narada understood that Bhagwan, he, in his eyes, he even says his devotees are greater than him. That's how much Bhagwan loves us. So with that same love and devotion, I'd just like to remind people that after the next Mara in the bhajan, if you haven't kept an arti ready, please do have an incense stick or a tea light candle or even an LED light ready for you to perform arti at the end. So with this, we will begin our seventh and eighth mala, and again we will chant after one omkar. Om Shri Satya Sai Krishnaya Namah. 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 Om Shri Sati 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 Sai Krishnaya Namah. Om Shri Satya Sai Krishnaya Namah. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Satya Sai Padambujam Bhajore Manasa Nirantaram. Satya Sai Padambujam Bhajore Manasa Nirantaram. Bala Bala
Jai Sai Ram. With Bhagwan's mercy, grace, and compassion, we have completed 8 malas of this online Laksharchan today. What is it that you offer to God? Swami says, what should we offer to God? Swami says, from Sanatan Sarthi of August 1995, page 202. What is it that you have to offer to God? Not a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or holy water. You have to offer yourself to God. Then you become one with the divine. That is what God desires from you. Realize that there is nothing of yours that you can offer to God. All you enjoy is from Him. Develop this conviction. This is what Bhagwan says. So we have got 1 mala left now. So I will tell you all to offer all your rice grains now, because this is the final mala, the ninth mala. And after the ninth mala, I will chant the Kshama Pratna, and then we will go towards. After the ninth bhajan, first of all, there will be a ninth mala, there will be a bhajan first, and then I will after the bhajan, I will chant the Kshama Prarthana and ask for forgiveness from Bhagwan. And then we will go on towards the ending prayers, which is Asatoma, Om Tat Sat, and then Bhagwan's Mangalarti, and then the Vibhuti mantra. So that is what we are planning to do. So please offer all your rice grains in this ninth mala, and we will now begin this mala together. We will chant the name of the Lord as loud as we can. So one Om, and then we'll chant, and after that there'll be a bhajan, and then after I'll chant the Kshama Pratna. Om Shri Satya Sai Krishnaya Namah. 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 Om Shri Satya Sai Krishnaya Nama. 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 Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
नमामि शङ्कर भज मन साई रामा नमामि शङ्कर भज मन साई शिव शिव सदा शिवा भज मन साई शिव शिव सदा शिवा भज मन साई
Jai Sai Ram. Please all join me in thanking our beloved Bhagwan that he's chosen us today to offer this Laksharchan at his lotus feet. Thank you, Swami. And may your grace, mercy, and compassion be showered upon all. We've all offered these rice grains. So what should we do after the rice grains? For those of you who haven't done Laksharchan before, you have to make it into 9 different piles of 9 different heaps of rice, and you keep one. You take one and put it in your rice container in the kitchen, and make sure that that container does not get empty. You refill it when there's a little left, so the divine vibrations stay in that container as Bhagwan's prasadam. And it is advisable to give the 8 different heaps of rice to people who really need it, and especially to patients who are not well. So please, if you do know of anybody, even after the lockdown, please do give them this rice, and they can cook and have it as prasadam. Before I do the Kshama Pratna, I would like to thank Bhagwan and our regional team for allowing this dasa to conduct this Laksharchan. Swami has conducted this, and may he always make me serve all and be nothing. So we'll all do Kshama Prarthana now, which means we will offer our salutations and ask for forgiveness if we've made any mistakes in this Laksharchan. So everybody fold your palms. करचरणकृतं वा कायजं कर्मजं वा श्रवणनयनजं वा मानसं वा पराधं विहितमविहितं वा सर्वमेतत् क्षमस्व जय जय करुणाब्दे श्री प्रभु साईनाथ अन्यथा शरणं नास्ति त्वमेव शरणं मम तस्मात् कारुण्य भावेन रक्ष रक्ष परमेश्वर आवाहनं न जानामि विसर्जनं पूजा विधिं न जानामि क्षमस्व साईश्वर क्षमस्व परमेश्वर Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we will now have the ending prayers and then Mangalarti and the Vibhuti mantra. And let us not forget the message that Bhagwan has given us today of patience, perseverance, and also to always have purity in our thought, word, and deed. And let us also follow the guidelines given to us by our government, and let us all stay safe under Bhagwan's lotus feet. We will now go towards the ending prayers. Thank you everybody for joining in today in this online Laksharchan. Jai Sai Ram.
पवित्रं बाबा विभूतिं परमं विचित्रं लीला विभूतिं परमार्थ इष्टार्थ मोक्ष प्रदानं बाबा विभूतिम् इदमाश्रयामि परमं पवित्रं बाबा विभूतिं परमं विचित्रं लीला विभूतिं परमार्थ इष्टार्थ मोक्ष प्रदानं बाबा विभूतिम् इदमाश्रयामि परमं पवित्रं बाबा विभूतिं परमं विचित्रं लीला विभूतिं परमार्थ इष्टार्थ मोक्ष प्रदानं बाबा विभूतिम् इदमाश्रयामि परमं पवित्रं बाबा विभूतिं परमं विचित्रं लीला विभूतिं परमार्थ इष्टार्थ मोक्ष प्रदानं बाबा विभूतिम् इदमाश्रयामि परमं पवित्रं बाबा विभूतिं परमं विचित्रं लीला विभूतिं परमार्थ इष्टार्थ मोक्ष प्रदानं बाबा विभूतिम् इदमाश्रयामि परमं पवित्रं बाबा विभूतिं परमं विचित्रं लीला विभूतिं परमार्थ इष्टार्थ मोक्ष प्रदानं बाबा विभूतिम् इदमाश्रयामि परमं पवित्रं बाबा विभूतिं परमं विचित्रं लीला विभूतिं परमार्थ इष्टार्थ मोक्ष प्रदानं बाबा विभूतिम् इदमाश्रयामि परमं पवित्रं बाबा विभूतिं परमं विचित्रं लीला विभूतिम्
ध्यौ शान्तिरन्तरिक्षम् शान्ति पृथिवी शान्तिरापः शान्तिरोषधयः शान्तिः वनस्पतयः शान्तिर्विश्वे देवाः शान्ति ब्रह्मा शान्ति सर्वम् शान्ति शान्तिरेव शान्ति सामा शान्तिरेधि ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः